So what are your options when you inherit a retirement plan, 401k IRA? A spouse has 4 options. That includes a rollover to their own IRA. Everybody has an additional 3 options. The spouse has 4 options. Everybody else has 3 options. Only the spouse can roll over funds into their own IRA. So if you've lost your spouse, you can cash that in and put it into your own IRA. And there are times that's beneficial and times that it's not. Everybody else has 3 other options: a lump sum, beneficial form, or to refuse to inherit or disclaim. And again, why would somebody do that? Let's talk about the rollover. The rollover from a deceased spouse to your own IRA very often makes sense. It really does. Because it offers overall simplicity. So you, instead of having accounts all over, you have a single IRA. With a single IRA, if you're over 59 and a half, it's penalty free. You know, there's 4 ways to get money out of an IRA tax-free. One of them is to die, right? That's one of them. So the spouse could pull it out tax-free at that point, or excuse me, penalty-free, not tax-free. I said that wrong. You have to die to get it out penalty-free. The spouse can roll it into their own account. If they're over 59 and a half, it's still penalty-free. If there's multiple accounts, you have an IRA, a 401k, a 457, a 403b, each and every one of those has to have a separate minimum required distribution. In today's tax code, all of those can be rolled into a single IRA. So for many people, simplicity is a need. And there's only one beneficiary form. Remember how complicated it is when you're organizing your estate? And then you have to organize all of your beneficiary forms to coordinate with your estate. If you pull them all into one IRA, you only have one beneficiary form to deal with. Now, there are times when you want to have more than one. So I'm not saying it's an all-inclusive, but very often, if you're the spouse who's inheriting from a spouse, will often recommend you roll it into your own IRA. Nobody else can do that. So going back to the friendly client service team, if you call them up and say, and it's not your spouse, can I roll it over? And they say, no, well, they're right, unless you're married. But they didn't ask you, can you transfer it? And they may not even know what that means. But you can transfer from an account, but you can't roll it over. So keeping going here, if you're under 59 and a half and you roll everything into your own plan and you need access to the money, it's subject to tax at that point and penalties. So if you think you might need access to the money before 59 and a half, we don't recommend you roll it over to your own IRA, and that will be the option to keep it in beneficial form. Beneficial form we'll talk about next is where you leave it in the name of the decedent. Few people even know that that's an option. Some want to keep the money separate for other reasons. Marital assets are all of the assets that you put together as a couple. If you are receiving an inheritance, whether it's from your spouse or somebody else, that would never be considered a marital asset if you marry again later. It's kept separate. It's in its own account. And if it's not an ERISA plan, an antenuptial would protect it. So if you keep the money in an inherited IRA in the former beneficiary's name, it's never commingled with your own. Makes it very easy to document which money is and which money isn't from if a person got married again. So there's reasons to do that.